We recently finished a full restoration on a 1973 Plymouth Duster. And it's a very cool car. The mission of this one was to make this car look better than it ever did new, but still appear to be a fairly original Plymouth Duster. And a lot of times people come to us and they say they want their car redone or a custom build or something crazy. And the best thing that we can do is help them figure out what it is that they want so that our team can make that happen. And sometimes if it's a stock original restoration, well, that's a lot easier because you can say, this is what it looks like now, just fix everything and make it new. In the case of a custom or some crazy new design, it often helps if we do a professional rendering and design study and really learn about what the customer wants, not only how the car looks, but also how it performs and feels and even sounds. But in this case, the mission was pretty clear. Take this old Duster that looks like it just got pulled out of a barn and make it look like it's ready to win a show. Now, people always ask us, what's the process, right? What do I do if I'm going to start a restoration? The important thing is to really just talk with whoever's going to do the work, or if you're going to do it yourself, to kind of plan it out and visualize the end result. In our case, people come to us by watching a video or going to our website and filling out the form. We have a couple guys that work here in the shop that talk to customers about cars all day long. And what they want to do is find out what it is you really want. And by visualizing that final car, and what I like to say, visualize your best day with the car, right? What is it? Cruising down a country road, or going to a drag race, or maybe a big indoor show, or maybe all of it, right? If we know what you want to do with it, that's how we know to proceed with building the car. And in this case, the guy had owned this thing for quite a long time and had really just wore it out, but liked what it was. So he brought us this 1973 Plymouth Duster. It's a medium blue, white interior, white stripe. It's a 340 car from the factory. And as we started to disassemble the car, that's where we document everything. We take a billion photographs of the condition of everything as it is when it showed up. And we'll even go so far as to measure the distance between the panels and record all those gaps using a digital caliper. And part of that is to measure what Plymouth did when the car was new, but also as a reference, so when we put this car back together, we're either going to put it together the way it was, or in many cases, we're going to make it a tighter gap that's more consistent, so it looks nicer than it ever did.
Duster, the value car for 1973.
This car was pretty rusty. The floors were rusty, the quarter panels, the interior was shot, gauges mounted to the bottom of the dashboard. But the overall feel of what he wanted, was there. So once we disassembled the car, we had the whole body media blasted and stripped, and then we built a fixture to mount the body to.
Every Duster has unibody construction. Tight, tough, tenacious. Unibody.
So the Duster is a unibody car, which means it doesn't have a frame that attaches to it. It's got a front K-frame suspension and a rear axle that goes onto that unibody. So it's critical to get that body true and square and straight so that as we put this thing back together, everything fits. And we get those dimensions from some original collision repair data. We've got books that have all the original dimensions of just about every car made in the US from the 30s all the way up to current stuff. So we make our jig mount to those same mounting points and make sure it's all true and square before we cut panels off and things change. There are a lot of panels available for this car in reproduction, quarter panels, trunk floors, things like that. Sometimes you gotta take a new piece and make it fit. Your car might be a little different, the panel might be a little different. These things are 50 years old or more in many cases. So there was times when we had to approach this prepared to make a panel fit the hole. But fortunately, our fabrication shop is, well versed in metalwork and can pretty easily make anything fit. When we were finished in the metal shop, the overall panel fit on this car was better than what Plymouth had done when it was new, which made it a little bit easier for our body shop team to refine that shape and make it aero laser straight. Part of the fun on this car was the color. So originally it was a medium blue metallic, but again, the owner wanted this to look nicer than it ever did when it was new, and Jeff, our painter and color chemist, went to town engineering a color that was reminiscent of the original, but not something you'd see every day. So it actually started as a blue that you'll find on a Range Rover SUV of all things. And on the Range Rover, it looks pretty cool, but Range Rovers don't have chrome and they don't have a white interior. So it looks a little bit muted. And Jeff took that color and added some pearl and some other razzmatazz that he likes to do and sprayed the car. It came out beautiful, especially when coupled with the bright, fresh chrome trim and that white interior. You put this Duster in the sun and it blows your mind. The color is so cool, but it's familiar looking. You know, it looks like it could have come with that color. And I think that's one of those details that'll make this thing look good forever. Under the hood, we have made a few modifications to the engine. Now this was originally a 340 car. It was only rated at 240 horsepower, but the 340 definitely has some potential. We added a Comp Cams hydraulic roller camshaft, some Edelbrock aluminum heads, an aluminum intake manifold, a bigger carburetor, MSD ignition, headers, a MagnaFlow 2.5-inch stainless mandrel bent exhaust system, and it just sounds sweet. All this was done to wake up the performance and move the needle way past that original 240 horsepower rating. The whole bottom side of the car was redone, not only with the new floor sheet metal, but coatings. We coated it with a bed liner material to keep it from chipping and make it easy to clean. All the suspension parts were rebuilt, the brakes, the disc brakes, the calipers, the hoses, brake lines, all the fuel lines, ball joints, bushings, sway bar end links, all that good stuff, so that the ride was restored and improved a little bit with the new parts. The rear axle was rebuilt with a different gear set and a new clutch and the limited slip differential. So everything you would do to renew the suspension without doing anything radical and changing the design. So it still has a familiar feel when driving it.
There's a special feel in Duster's ride and handling with torsion bar suspension. The ride is smooth, yet you get precise handling.
I think the inside of the car was one of the most radical changes because it came in so dirty and dusty. I mean, it was a Duster after all. So we took the original buckets out and stripped them down, recovered them with new seat covers. And these are this bright white coupled with reupholstered bright white door panels and side panels. And when you contrast that with a brand new black carpet and a fully detailed dashboard, and the contrasting colors inside are just wonderful. And they work really nice against that blue on the outside. Inside we also modified the dash. Gone was the original rectangular gauge, and it's been replaced with a dashboard full of autometer gauges. If you remember those gauges hanging below the dash, well, they're gone. Autometer actually makes a combination unit, so it's one circular gauge that's got 4 different gauges in it, and that's the way we were able to clean all that up and make it look a little more high performance. The steering wheel is a polished aluminum unit, but very similar to the black unit that came in with the car. And inside, really, we just added some vintage air for creature comforts, but the rest is gonna, again, be just like a brand new version of what the customer brought us. So when the team finished this car up, the final details were the white 340 stripes on the side, the rear graphic decal between the taillights. And that's a neat detail because a lot of times you see these cars and that graphic it's not centered or it's twisted or angled a little bit. You look at this one, between the lights and the trunk lid gap and the bodywork on the back of the car, it is precision. And it looks super clean. And I think the original Plymouth Rally wheels in silver are the perfect choice for this car. It really just shows that familiar image of a classic Duster that's gonna look great forever. And these cars are really gaining in popularity, so it was cool to do one and bring it back around. So if you have an old car languishing in a barn, a muscle car, or a classic, or maybe you want some custom hot rod or something that you're dreaming up in your mind, we're happy to help. We can either bring yours back to life or maybe even help you find a different one. You can reach us anytime you want at v8speedshop.com, and we're happy to talk about bringing your dream car out of your dreams and onto the street.